My name is Jenna Evans, and I never thought a trip to the hospital would change everything for me. It was supposed to be a quick stop. I wasn't expecting anything to happen. But it did, and I'll never forget the moment everything shifted. I was in pain. Sharp, twisting pain. It started in my lower abdomen, growing stronger by the minute until I couldn't sit still. I tried to breathe through it, but it wasn't going away. I told my dad, who had been standing beside me looking at his phone, that I needed to go to the ER. I barely made it to the car before the pain hit again. "Dad," I whispered between clenched teeth, "I really need help." He glanced up from his phone, irritated. "We're almost there, Jenna. Don't make a fuss." But the pain kept growing. By the time we reached the emergency room, I could barely stand. My dad helped me inside, looking frustrated with the situation. I didn't blame him, but I couldn't understand why he wasn't reacting more urgently. I wanted him to help me, to be there for me, but he wasn't. When we got to the triage desk, my dad's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face lighting up with something that looked like relief, like distraction. "Jenna, sit down." "I'll be right back," he said, barely meeting my eyes. I nodded, too exhausted to argue, and sank into one of the plastic chairs. I was in and out of consciousness, the pain swirling and growing more intense by the minute. But my dad wasn't there anymore. I was alone. Minutes passed, but he still wasn't back. I could barely focus on anything except the pain, but I noticed a nurse walk by, and I waved my hand, trying to get her attention. When she saw me, she hurried over. "Are you okay?" she asked, noticing the look of distress on my face. "I need to see a doctor," I gasped. "It's really bad." The nurse helped me to an examination room, but even there, I felt abandoned. My dad wasn't around. No one was paying attention to me. The hospital was full of people, all moving about in a blur. I tried to call my dad's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I left a message. I begged him to come back. But there was no answer. My dad was gone, and I was still hurting, alone in a cold hospital room. The pain was getting worse, but the hospital staff was still dealing with other cases. There was no urgency. No one seemed to understand that I was in real danger. But the one person I needed wasn't there. The one person who should have been there, my dad, was nowhere to be found. I don't remember how long I lay there in that sterile, cold room. All I could focus on was the pain and the relentless buzzing of my mind. I kept thinking, where is he? Where's my dad? I couldn't move. I couldn't speak much beyond desperate gasps, but the hospital room felt like a world away from any comfort. My dad was supposed to be here. He was supposed to be my protector, the one who would be at my side in moments like this. But I felt more alone than ever. The nurse returned after what felt like an eternity, and she finally got the doctor in the room. The doctor examined me quickly, asking routine questions I could barely answer, her voice clinical, distant. She didn't ask how I felt about being abandoned in a room with no family, no support. It was like I wasn't even there. The doctor finally said, "We need to run a few tests, Jenna. We're concerned it might be appendicitis, but we'll need to get you an ultrasound." "Ultrasound? Appendicitis?" I was trying to process what she was saying, but it felt like I was losing my grip on reality. All I could focus on was the fact that my dad wasn't there, not even to listen, to comfort me, or even to ask what was happening. He had disappeared. I glanced at the door as she walked out, hoping, praying that he'd walk in. But no one came. No phone call. No apology. No sign of him. Where was he? I reached for my phone, my hands shaking. The screen lit up and I saw a text message from my sister. It was a simple one. "Hey, is Dad with you? He's freaking out about something. I think it's a big deal." Freaking out? About what? I quickly typed a response, the pain too overwhelming to focus on what I was saying. "He's not here." "Where is he? I need him." A few minutes later, another text popped up, but it wasn't from my sister. It was from my dad. "Sorry, I'm busy. I'll be there soon. Take care of yourself." My heart sank. Take care of yourself? Was he serious? I could barely understand why he wasn't coming. But what hurt more was the realization that my dad, my rock, my protector, had completely abandoned me when I needed him the most. He was busy. That was his excuse. A tight, cold knot formed in my chest. I had always believed in the ideal of family, the idea that no matter what happened, family would have your back. But this wasn't family. This wasn't care. This was neglect. I lay in that hospital bed, staring at the fluorescent lights above me, unable to focus on anything but the gnawing emptiness inside. Dad wasn't coming. It hit me in waves, like a punch to the gut each time I tried to process what was happening. He wasn't there when I needed him. He hadn't even called. My phone vibrated again, but it wasn't him. It was a call from my sister, Michelle. Jenna, what's going on? Are you okay? She asked, her voice frantic. I couldn't hide the anger in my voice. You tell me, Michelle. Where's Dad? He's not even here. I'm in pain and he's too busy to care. There was a silence on the other end. A long one. Then Michelle spoke, her voice quieter this time, almost regretful. He's not at the hospital because he's trying to manage me, Jenna, she said, and I could hear the edge in her voice. I've been having a meltdown all morning. I don't know what happened, but I needed him. I was stunned. A meltdown? Was that why he wasn't with me? A meltdown? I couldn't believe it. The emotional chaos I had been feeling, the physical pain, was somehow being overshadowed by whatever drama Michelle was stirring up. My mind raced. Are you seriously telling me that he's ignoring me because you needed him? I asked, barely controlling the bitterness in my voice. I'm lying here alone in a hospital in agony, and he's busy with your meltdown? Michelle hesitated. I don't know what happened, Jenna. It's just that. Dad always runs to fix things for me. He doesn't know how to handle it when I get like this. I felt a wave of frustration rise in me. That's the problem. He's always been there for you. He's always been there to fix your mess while I'm just left behind. Every time. Michelle's voice softened. I didn't mean it to be like this, but I think you're right. I think he should have been with you. I wasn't sure how to process her words. There was guilt mixed with something else. Resentment, maybe, or just a deep hurt. It wasn't just Dad. It wasn't just Michelle. It was the fact that I had spent so long being the strong, silent one, the one who never asked for help, who was always expected to hold it together, while Dad, my dad, always ran to fix everyone else's problems. I ended the call with a quick, I have to go, but I wasn't sure what I was feeling anymore. I couldn't stay angry at Michelle. But it didn't change the fact that I had been abandoned. At that moment, I decided something. This wasn't going to be my story anymore. This wasn't going to be about me silently accepting what was happening, about me staying in the background as always. I needed to find my own voice and I needed to stand up for myself. No more waiting for Dad to fix things. No more accepting his neglect. I would make my own decisions, starting with my health and my life. The following hours were a blur. The pain hadn't subsided and I could barely focus on anything around me. Every time the door opened, I hoped it would be Dad walking in to apologize to make things right. But each time I was met with more nurses, more doctors, and more tests. No one seemed to care about the emotional weight of my situation. I tried to pull myself together, but it wasn't easy. The idea that my dad was busy dealing with Michelle's meltdown, while I was here fighting my own physical battle, made me feel completely invisible. It was a feeling I had known for years. The sense of being forgotten, of being the second choice, the one who never demanded enough attention. But this time I wasn't going to stay silent. I had reached my breaking point. The nurse came in asking me how I was feeling. I told her the truth. I feel abandoned. I feel like no one is looking out for me. She must have sensed the underlying tension because she paused and sat down beside me. Jenna, she said, her voice gentle, we understand what you're going through. It's not easy being here, especially when you feel like your support system is falling apart. But you have to remember something important. Your voice matters. You're here because you need help and we're here to give it to you. You're not invisible. The words hit me harder than I expected. It was simple advice, reminding me of my worth, but it felt like a revelation. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't just a secondary concern, tucked behind my sister's emotional drama. I had my own needs, my own right to be heard, and I needed to demand that respect starting now. The nurse left and I sat alone for a few moments thinking about her words. The pain was still there, gnawing at me, but now it felt different. Instead of feeling helpless, I felt a small spark of determination. I wasn't going to stay in this cycle of neglect. I wasn't going to wait for anyone to choose me. I would choose myself. I reached for my phone again. This time, I didn't wait for Michelle to call me. I called Dad. His voicemail picked up immediately. I left a simple message, Dad, I need you here. You've ignored me long enough. I can't do this alone. Please come now. I wasn't asking anymore. I was telling him what I needed. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Dad. I'm busy right now, Jenna. I'll be there in a few hours. Don't worry. I stared at the screen, the words feeling like a slap in the face. Don't worry? How could he possibly think I wasn't worried? This was it. The moment I realized he wasn't coming, and I couldn't keep waiting for him. I couldn't keep waiting for anyone to make things right. I had to take control of my own life, of my own recovery. This wasn't about him anymore. It was about me. The hospital room felt suffocating as the hours passed. Every minute, my frustration and hurt deepened. My dad's text was the last straw. I had hoped for once that he would put me first, just this once. But the truth hit me like a wave. He wasn't going to change. I could hear the echo of every time he had chosen something, or someone, else over me. Every time I had silently accepted being second in his eyes, waiting for his attention, waiting for his support. But not anymore. I wasn't going to let him dictate the terms of my life anymore. I had spent so much time living in the shadow of his expectations, letting him walk all over me, that I had forgotten how to take control of my own life. But this was the moment. I could either stay in this room, waiting for someone who wasn't coming, or I could stand up and take charge of my own healing. I hit the call button for the nurse, my heart pounding in my chest. When she entered, I took a deep breath and looked her in the eye. "I need to speak to a doctor." "I can't wait anymore," I said, my voice steady despite the anger churning inside me. The nurse nodded, sensing the urgency in my tone. "Of course, Jenna. I'll get someone for you right away." As I sat back on the bed, I stared out the window at the darkening sky. It was quiet, too quiet. And the silence was deafening. All I wanted was to be seen. All I wanted was someone, anyone, to recognize that I was in pain, that I was hurting, and that I deserved help. But instead I was left waiting. Minutes later, the doctor came in, clipboard in hand. She glanced at my chart and then met my eyes. "Jenna, how are you feeling?" I didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I need you to help me. I'm not waiting for anyone anymore." The doctor nodded, her professional demeanor steady. "Of course. What do you need?" "I need to know what's going on with me. I need answers. I'm in pain and no one is listening to me." She paused, then quickly began making notes. "Let's get you into another round of tests. We'll get to the bottom of it, okay?" I nodded, but the truth was clearer than ever. This hospital, these people, they were doing their jobs, but they weren't really seeing me. The pain was real, but so was the emotional toll of being abandoned, ignored. It wasn't just my physical body in distress, it was everything that had built up over the years, the neglect, the empty promises, the constant feeling that I was never enough. But I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to be the passive bystander in my own life. When the doctor left to arrange my tests, I glanced at my phone again. Another message from my dad. Another text that promised an arrival that wouldn't come. I stared at the screen, my jaw clenched. I don't need him anymore. I've been waiting for him my entire life. But not anymore. I'll be the one who saves myself. I was exhausted. Physically drained from the pain, emotionally overwhelmed by the reality of being ignored, I was starting to question everything. But there, in the cold, sterile hospital room, something inside me shifted. For so long, I had waited for my dad to step in, to be the father I needed, but every time he failed me. Every time he prioritized someone or something else, I felt smaller, less important. But now, I was starting to realize that I didn't need him to fix things. I had spent my entire life thinking that my worth was tied to his approval, his attention. But it wasn't. I was more than that. I was capable of standing up for myself, even if it meant doing it alone. The test came back and it wasn't appendicitis. The doctor explained that my symptoms were caused by an ovarian cyst. Nothing life-threatening but painful and requiring immediate treatment. As the nurse prepared and for me, I couldn't help but think about the irony of it all. Here I was, alone in a hospital room with no one but strangers to help me, while my dad was off somewhere, dealing with his own drama. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep waiting for him to show up when he never would. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that it wasn't just him I had been waiting for, it was everyone. I had always let people walk into my life and dictate the terms. I had always been the silent one, the one who waited to be noticed, who tried to make others happy without thinking about what I needed. But now that had to stop. As I lay there, letting the 4 drip slowly into my arm, I thought about what I wanted for the future. What did I want from my relationships? What did I need to make myself happy? The first thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't keep waiting for others to validate my existence. I wasn't going to let my dad's absence, or anyone else's for that matter, determine my worth. It wasn't until later that evening, after the test had been completed and the doctor had confirmed the diagnosis, that I truly realized something crucial. I had been waiting my whole life for someone to show up for me. I had relied on my dad's promises and actions, even when he constantly let me down. But now, I understood that it was never going to be the way I imagined. For the first time, I felt a sense of independence, a kind of clarity I had never felt before. The world wasn't waiting for me to be validated by my father. It wasn't waiting for anyone to give me permission to be strong, to take charge of my life. The nurse came in asking if I was feeling better. I nodded, but I wasn't thinking about the pain in my abdomen anymore. The physical discomfort had dulled, replaced by a deeper realization. I didn't need anyone to fix me. I could do it on my own. When the nurse left, I picked up my phone. There was another message from my dad, and I felt a strange mixture of anger and acceptance as I read it. "I'm sorry, Jenna. I had to handle something with Michelle. I'll come by in a bit." For some reason this time I didn't feel the urge to reply. I didn't want to ask for something that wasn't coming. I didn't need his empty promises or his excuses anymore. I sat there in that sterile room, staring out the window at the city lights twinkling far below. In that moment I realized that the only person who could change my life was me. I wasn't waiting for anyone else. I wasn't waiting for permission. I was going to take control of my own future. I made a vow right then and there. I wasn't going to allow anyone, especially not my father, to dictate my worth. I was going to step into my life with confidence, even if it meant doing it without the support I had always hoped for. The days that followed were different. As I recovered in the hospital, the emotional fog I'd been in for years began to clear. I realized that while my body was healing, so was my mind. The physical pain had been overwhelming, but it was the emotional weight that had been strangling me. For years, I had allowed myself to be second best, always waiting for my dad or someone else to validate me, to step in when I needed them the most. But now I was done with that. I spent the next few days focused on what I could control: my health, my career, and my decisions. I didn't need to wait for anyone to fix things. I could take action. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of peace. The message from Dad kept pinging through, but I ignored it. There was nothing he could say that would change the truth. He had failed me when I needed him. And maybe, just maybe, that was something I needed to accept, not because it was okay but because it would free me. One morning, just after breakfast, I received another call from him. This time I picked up. "Hey, Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice calm, even though every part of me wanted to scream at him. "I know you're upset, Jenna," he began. "I should have been there for you. I'm sorry. I was trying to manage everything with Michelle. You know how it is." I cut him off, my voice steady and clear. "Dad, I don't need your apology. I don't need you to fix anything. I've been handling things on my own for years. It's time you understood that I don't need you to validate me anymore. I'm capable of taking care of myself." There was silence on the other end. It wasn't the angry silence I had expected, but something different. It was almost like he was processing what I had said. "Jenna, I didn't realize how much I'd let you down," he said quietly, his voice softer than usual. "I'm sorry. You're right. You don't need me in the way I thought you did." I paused, unsure of what to say. For a moment, I thought I'd heard something real in his voice, something that suggested he might actually be starting to understand. But I wasn't ready to get my hopes up. "You've had your chance, Dad," I said, my voice firm but not unkind. "It's not about what you can or can't do for me anymore. It's about me doing things for myself." There was another long pause, but this time I didn't feel the need to fill the silence with words. I had said what I needed to say. "I understand," he said finally, his voice laced with resignation. "Take care of yourself, Jenna. I'll always be here, but I get it now. I'm proud of you." The conversation ended and I sat there, the weight lifting from my shoulders. I wasn't angry anymore. I didn't feel the need to hold on to the hurt. I had taken control, and in that moment I realized that I was free. The pain from the hospital faded, and with it, the emotional chains I had bound myself to for so long. I didn't need my dad's approval to move forward. I didn't need anyone's validation. I was strong, capable, and whole on my own. As I walked out of the hospital, ready to face the world again, I knew one thing for certain. The journey wasn't about waiting for anyone to come and rescue me. It was about rescuing myself.